This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Ducket Fishing, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
PTL, coming at you!
Good morning and welcome to a very special post-classic edition of Bass Talk Live. It is Tuesday, March 8th, and I have made my way back from Lake Hartwell, the 52nd, I believe, Bass Master Classic, the fourth on Lake Hartwell, and the first where Jason Christie hold the trophy over his head. 54 pounds, gets the job done in an absolute nail-biter between Christie, Kyle Welcher, and Stetson Blaylock. And with 17 pounds, 9 ounces on the final day, Jason Christie gets a 5-ounce win over Kyle Welcher to finally get the Bassmaster Classic trophy after the two well-documented classics, the first being on Grand Lake and the second being at this very venue on Lake Hartwell, where he goes into the final day atop the leaderboard, and this time in absolutely dramatic fashion gets the job done. And I think he was just as excited and surprised as everybody in the crowd was when Mercer announced that winning weight, and Christie was just he seemed shocked. Like he said, you win when you least expect it. I thought it was also interesting. He said, I think this was his 6th or 8th classic, something. He said he thought he's been in contention for 4 or 5 of these things to win them. And to finally get the job done, obviously at the top of many of the pundits' lists and people who are following it. He has, I believe, an FLW Tour win here. We've seen what he's done in the Classic here, so this lake suits him, as it does both Stetson Blaylock and Kyle Welcher. This week, an exciting week for BTL. Today, we are going to be joined by second-place finisher Kyle Welcher, who's going to join, talk a little bit about how things went down, made a really key adjustment on the final day. He went 18-13, 17-10, and 17-4, but it would not have been 17-4 had he not made a key adjustment on the final day to get back in contention. And then we are also going to have Jeff Gustafson. Gussie is going to jump on the show. Now, Gussie finished in 41st in this event, not the Bass Master Classic that he was hoping for. Went 12-12 on day 1, 13 on day 2. But if you remember, in Tennessee, Gussie last year won an Elite Series event on a Demiki rig on that kind of jig head little baitfish profile, and almost, I think, 5 of the top 6 guys were actually doing that here. The deep bite played a lot more than I expected it to on Lake Hartwell, but I wanted to get Gussie on because he has won an Elite Series event doing that. I thought he would be very strong in this event, so we'll kind of get his take on how things went down. Then tomorrow, on Wednesday, for BTL, we are going to continue with the top 6 finishers in the Classic, highlighted by none other, and I don't even have it updated on the website yet because this he actually texted me back while I was landing back in Oklahoma City. We've got the man, and now the legend, Jason Christie, is going to be on BTL on Wednesday to break down how he won, and probably a lot of congratulatory from all of us here in Oklahoma. Very proud of the dude for getting it done. Also going to talk to Justin Hamner, who really made a big name for himself. You know, there's a lot of young guys in the Bassmaster Classic, in my opinion, who can do a world of good for themselves. You think of what Brandon Polinick did back in the 2011 Classic. Although he didn't win it, he was a major player in that Classic from the beginning, and took his career on forward, and I think Hamner might have done the same thing for himself here. So he finished in 4th. We'll have Justin Hamner on, and then we will also have 6th place finisher and fellow Oklahoman Luke Palmer, who was extremely shocked that he was able to finish 6th in the Bassmaster Classic, primarily on the back of a spinning rod. So we will have those two on. Uncle Frank will be on Thursday. I believe during his classic picks, he talked a lot about Stetson Blaylock. So his pick came through with a 3rd place finish. But a lot to talk about. Going to kind of break down a little bit about what I thought about the Bassmaster Classic. I've been to every single one of them since 2009. And I will say right off the top, after the weigh-in was over, we're down in the media room. We're doing the thing, just kind of wrapping it up. And I turned to Pete Robbins, one of the legendary writers for Bass and for a number of publications. I said, man, I said, just off the top of my head, I said, this, to me, is the best Bassmaster Classic that I can remember since the 2012 Classic that Chris Lane won, when he kneeled, when he put his finger in the air on the Red River there and really kind of revitalized his career. I think we saw him win like a tournament every single year for the next 4 years after that. But, I mean, yeah, there's been a lot of great classics. You talk about Jordan Lee's comeback, Casey Ashley in his home state, the Randy Howell decision to go on the bridge, on Gunnersville. You've got Edwin Evers going up the river and cracking 28, 29 pounds to win that classic in the past. But just that sticks out as a whole, the expo, the weigh-in, how everything went, this classic, and it could just be because it is super fresh in my mind, but really enjoyed this Bassmaster Classic. Bass actually announced at the expo 154,932, I believe the number was, which is a Bassmaster Classic attendance record. Days 1 and 2 of the weigh-in, kind of typical. Still really cool vibe there, but not filled. But man, day 3. Especially for the 4th time being in Greenville. The fans really showed out. It was packed, the smoke, the anglers rolling around. The weigh-ins didn't seem drawn out to me, actually. If you look at the over-unders, Mercer actually texted me because I had the length of the day 1 weigh-in over-under 3 hours and 25 minutes, and he hit the under. He said it was like 2 hours and something. But just a really well-run classic. And we'll talk to Kyle about this, but I think the launch, and I never went to the launch, so consider me guilty there, but I didn't make it down to Green Pond Landing because I knew it would be chaos. I guess they actually had to build a road after the first day weigh-in, another access road, like they had bulldozers and stuff out there for all the fans, thousands of fans at the launch that rivaled when they had it on the Tennessee River a couple years ago. So we'll talk to Kyle here in a couple minutes about what it's like to take out on that. But the only downside that I thought was the parking at the expo was an absolute nightmare. And that's probably a good problem to have. I do remember the last time it was there, it was. But the expo, well laid out. The vendors that I talked to, absolutely ecstatic with the sales, the way things were weighed out. It was enough people that there was constant traffic, but not enough to where it was one of those mosh pit mob scenes. Big shout out to all of the BTL listeners and fans of the show that found me throughout the expo. It was really cool because I'm blown away every single time I get to meet the listeners and fans of the sport and the show, as you guys are just so knowledgeable. And I liked it wasn't just like, hey, can I get a picture and stuff? Man, you guys wanted to talk fishing and you wanted to talk educated fishing. And I had some really great conversations all throughout all 3 days of the expo. I ended up pretty much staying the entire expo just talking to people about what was going on. And it's awesome. The fan support and the viewers saw a lot of BTL swag there, and that was awesome. And then just an all-around great classic experience from my perspective. And it's the classic, man. It's a weird time in the sport, but this was the first one where I didn't hear anything about who was there and who wasn't there. It was the Bassmaster Classic in all of its glory, and it was awesome. It was awesome. So let's get to the second place finisher right now, and we will get his take on how things went down. This dude's like a pro's pro, man. Like, we're like 48 hours away from it, and I don't know how I would handle it. I don't know how I would handle the highs and the lows. And we've talked to Frank Scalish on the show before, who's like, man, I don't even want to go to the Classic to work it when I'm not in it because of the Classic letdown afterwards. And Kyle Welcher, who there's certain guys that when they get close, like Jordan Lee was one of those guys. Christie was one of those guys early. The guys in the media room have been around a while. We're like, man, he'll learn from this, but Kyle's going to get one. It's not like a, flash in the pan where it's, this was his shot and 30 years from now he's going to be, well, one time I almost won the bet. Like, everyone believes that you, Kyle, are going to be back in that position, but we are now joined by second place finisher in the Bassmaster Classic, 53 pounds, 11 ounces. Kyle, thanks for joining on BTL.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm really glad that I got to come on here, kind of talk about it some. But when you said 53 pounds, 11 ounces, I haven't really paid that much attention to the weight till you just said it. But I guessed before the tournament that it was going to take 52.11. And whenever I guessed that, I had one of the highest weight guesses of all the anglers who guessed during media day. So this classic pretty much had a higher weight than almost anyone was anticipating.
You were very close. I will say I did get a text from Jared Miller. Jared Miller picked 54 pounds to win the Classic. He nailed Christie's winning weight, but other than that, kind of in the media and going into this thing, at first we looked at all the weights and we were thinking that 14, 15 pound, a lot of spectators, but then we hear warming trend, big largemouth going shallow, looking at all the South and North Carolina anglers in this field. And I think a lot of the pundits thought, oh, this is going to take north of 60 and we're going to see a lot of 6-pounders. And even though it was the heaviest winning weight out of the 4 classics that have been on Hartwell, it wasn't just an absolute slugfest. There were only 2 20-pound bags that crossed the stage in the entire event.
Yeah, even though Hartwell is a phenomenal lake, it doesn't put out that many 20-pound bags, 22-pound bags. So all those Clearwater lakes, especially the ones where there's, bait oriented, it is extremely difficult to eclipse that 15-pound mark day after day after day. I mean, that's why 54 pounds won it, because it's very difficult to catch that 17 or 18-pound mark. I mean, there's a ton of 2-pounders in that place, a ton of 1.5-pounders, but catching a 3.5 to 4-pounder there, it's not that easy. Even though a lot of the guys in the top did it consistently, it's very, very difficult. So on a lake like that, that's so clear, the bait moves around so much, the fish move around so much, it's very conditional. It's just extremely difficult to maintain those high weights over the course of 3 days.
You were kind of in an interesting position going into this Classic. We talk a lot about momentum, and I actually ran into you at the boat ramp a week and a half before your Elite Series season started. It was right before that Bassmaster Open, and we were putting in at the same launch ramp at Cypress around all the peacocks and exotic animals and walking a mile. And, you were talking about getting ready for Florida, and I just remember thinking, dude, this is what a pro does. He goes down, he acclimates. You're coming off of a great year. You've done well in Florida, and then you went out and you sucked for 2 events, and it was kind of a shock. So you're going into this Classic, and everything was kind of setting up for you. But talk about mentally where you were heading in there after 2 tough events in Florida. Did you know that you would be in this position come Sunday afternoon?
You never know you're going to be in that position, and especially after the practice I had on Hartwell, I felt like I was going to have to get extremely fortunate to, catch the weight that I needed to be in contention. But yeah, I mean, coming back from Florida's one of those places where, man, you could literally flip up beside a lily pad and catch a 12-incher, or you could have caught a 9-pounder. And that is what your life depends on in Florida. And in 2 tournaments, I never weighed in a fish bigger than 3 pounds. And when you do that in Florida, you're not going to have a very good result. But I mean, it's really you can be in the back of a canal, skip under a dock, catch a 10-pounder, or you could be on the main lake throwing in hydrilla that's 12 foot deep and catch a 12-pounder in Florida. That's just what happens in Florida. Your life revolves around catching those big fish. And I fished for big ones in Florida, and it just didn't pan out. So, but I had the same mindset all the time. If you have success or you have failure, you have tough times. To me, I try to keep it as simple as possible mentally. You make the best decisions you can possibly make. You be as prepared as you can possibly be, and you work as hard as you can possibly work. And then you just have to have faith that over the long term, over the course of a year, you're going to have more positive results than negative results. So, I don't try to get super emotional. I don't get really down and out whenever I have something bad. And I also don't get super high whenever I have something good happen. I just know that I have to go into the next one and I have to practice daylight till dark 3 days in a row. And when I get to the lake, I want to have every single rod that I might need perfectly rigged and dialed in. And I go through every single lake tons of times on Google Earth. I go over I have Lake Master map, and I go over all that type of stuff before I get there, try to get a game plan so that whenever stuff does start changing, I know the best way to adapt. I'm more familiar with the lake than the people that don't do that type of stuff. So when conditions start changing, I'm like, hey, I remember there was something unique in the back of this pocket. Let's go try this, even though I might have never went to it in practice, or that might happen in practice. So I have the same mindset all the time. It's just work as hard as you can, control everything you can control, be prepared, and then in the long term, more good stuff's going to happen to you than bad.
It's really interesting. Christie said he won this tournament. He said he had one deep hole and a couple docks, and he said he put his nose in the dirt and grinded for 3 days, which is like a super Christie thing to say. Like the way he says it with like, I just grinded for. But you made a crazy adjustment on the last day, kind of bailed on what you had been doing, and it almost won you the Bassmaster Classic. But talk about having the guts when it's all on the line to go do something that hadn't worked for you during practice or the first 2 days of the tournament, and almost pulling the thing out.
Well, that's the one that everybody's seen, but I actually made a really big adjustment on day number 1 that even got me those 2 big bags on the first couple of days. So, every time you're fishing those clear water lakes, and this is what you like, whenever you're, at night and you're finally able to relax a little bit and think about stuff, this is what you have to keep telling yourself when you're fishing those clear water lakes is you have to run the conditions. You absolutely have to fish the conditions. Things are changing all the time. And I mean, the fish, just like I said earlier, the fish move around so much. If you're not making adjustments, you're not going to stay around the bass. So like early on day 1, I got super fortunate. I put up on a shallow place where the fish were schooling. There was a lot of threadfin shad on there, and there were scattered brush piles. Well, I didn't even know there was one brush pile there in particular, and I seen some fish just spin it up on the flat. So I trolled over there to them. I'm casting to them, and I don't know if they were white bass or what, but they wouldn't bite. So I follow them, and all of a sudden they are swimming towards a brush pile. So I scanned the brush pile, and the fish led me to it, and there's 6 bass that's spinning on top of the brush pile. So I throw a jerkbait up there, and first cast over the brush pile, I catch a 413. Well, 4 of them followed the 413 to the boat. So, and this is in the first 20 minutes of the day. So I pick up a shaky head of day 1. Pick up a shaky head. I've never threw a shaky head at all in practice. So I picked up a shaky head. I threw it out to the brush pile because I saw there was 2 bass left in it. It goes to the bottom. It never even hits bottom. I catch a 212. So now we're 20 minutes in, and I got a 413 and a 212 instantly. So I'm like, okay, it's time to from there, I fished for like an hour and a half, running the same similar type of stuff I had found in practice. We're like an hour and a half in, I still got 2 really good ones. I'm like, look, stuff changed. Practice was a long way away from now. So I instantly, an hour and a half into the Bassmaster Classic, I started running new water. And I pulled up on this little windblown, it was a windblown little sandy bank that had some dark spots on it and some lay down logs. And I started throwing a swim bait, and 5 casts in, I didn't catch him, but I had a 3.5, 3 3/4 all the way to the boat, and he comes off. So I was like, that's a good bite. That's a good sign. So I re-rig my swim bait up. I make 3 more casts with it, and I catch a 3 1/4 spot. So then I start running that, and I ran that for the next hour and a half, and I had 2 more 4-pound bites that I didn't put in the boat. But I knew what was happening. I was like, these fish were not here in practice. All of a sudden, there's in the first 3.5, 4 hours of the tournament, I've had 5 or 6 over 3-pound bites of fish that were not this shallow, in practice. Mm-hmm. So then I started running that type of stuff, and it got me through that day. I caught a couple more, 3-pounders that even, and I caught a 4 1/4 out of a brush pile in 38 foot. I found that brush pile in official practice. I found it in official practice. I never even made a cast to it, but I seen a couple of 2-pounders and a 3-pounder suspended on the back float of this dock. So I go in there, and I'm like, if they're moving shallow, there's going to be more in this area. So I pull up, and I go to the brush pile, and I throw in it, and I catch a 4 1/4 out of the brush pile that I found in official practice. And then I started fishing those docks that had the fish suspended underneath them, and caught another 3.5 pounder. And that's how I had my weight on day 1. So going into day 2, I ran a lot more of that. And on day 2 was the day where I really didn't adjust a ton, because I got really fortunate. And early I caught a 6-pounder and a 4-pounder in the first couple hours. And then I had 2 2.5-pound spots. I had a 2 1/4, 2.5, a 4, and a 6. So I was like, I'm not going to try to adjust and change stuff. I need 1 bite. So I fished the whole rest of the day. I never had another big bite that, I landed. So going into day 3, I had just fished the last half of day 2, and I knew that there wasn't as many pull up as I thought. Because on day 1, I got all those bites super fast. I was like, they move shallow. Well, after doing it for a lot on day 2, I knew they really hadn't pulled up quite as much as I thought they had. So going into it, or they at least were not in the mood that I thought they were in. So going into day 3, after I fished, all the best stuff I had, and I had 3 or 4 fish, I don't remember exactly. At 10 o'clock in the morning, I just put it all down. I said, we're going to run new water for the rest of the day if we're going to have a shot to win this thing. And I started running. And then the first pocket I run into, there was a little isolated piece of cover right before this small little spawning flat. And I threw that swim bait over it, and I caught like a 2 3/4. So I run from there, and I'm like, okay, maybe they're on this last little bit of stuff, or the last little bit of cover before they start spawning. So I run into a pocket. I've never seen the pocket before, but on my map, it was just super obvious the fish are going to be spawning there. They're probably spawning in there right now because there was pollen. That's one thing I didn't mention. As soon as I started fishing on day 3, there was pollen on the water. It's like the first thing I noticed. And, everybody that knows when you fish around pollen, the fish are going to be spawning very soon after the pollen starts dropping. That just means the days are long enough. It's the time of year where it's about to start happening. So I zoomed out on my map. I seen one of the best spawning areas that, in my mind, on this area of the lake, and I pull up in there. And first dock I skip under, I catch a 3-pounder. I fish down through those docks, catch a couple more fish, and then I get back over where I feel like they'll be spawning, and I see a 4-pounder just suspended. I skip a wacky rig in front of him. He eats it, and I just ran that type of stuff the rest of the day and caught up a few more times. But so it was just the fish were moving, and if you're going to win a tournament in March, a multi-day tournament in March is such a transitional time of year. Like it's not like in the summer where the fish are kind of going to stay somewhere for a couple months, or in the winter where the fish might be there from November till February. In March, they're literally moving as fast as they possibly can because where they want to be and where they started is not the same. So they move extremely fast. So I was really – that fits my style, though, because I jump around a ton. But, yeah, that's basically the adjustments I made and how I was moving around.
It's really interesting just the way you describe that, because you talk about farming a couple on day 1, a couple big ones, but it seems like the way you describe it wasn't, oh my gosh, that could have been the classic. It was, hey, I made the right adjustments to get these bites that showed me how the fish were moving, and then I took those cues and turned it into a good tournament. I think there's a lot of bass fishermen who would look at that and say, man, I think I had the bites on that I could have won it with, whereas as you described it, you were looking at that as a positive, that you made the adjustments, it gave you feedback, and that's what allowed you for the next 2.5 days to put yourself in contention to win. That's a mentality that I think a lot of people need to have and struggle to have.
So, definitely. Christie might have lost a bunch of 5-pounders too, but
he didn't lose a single fish, dude.
Well,
he didn't lose a single bite all tournament. He said he's gotten them around K. He said he never lost a fish all derby.
Well, legit, I had 9 or 10 bites, any one of them. If I would have landed that fish and then still made the same string of decisions afterwards, I would have won the tournament. But here's the deal. If I catch everything that bites on day 1 and I catch everything that bites on day 2 and I go into day 3 with a 5 or 6 pound lead, then I don't make the adjustments because I got more. If you got a 5 or 6 pound lead, it's harder to make the adjustments. Yeah. So, and then on day 2, I went and threw a big swim bait around for the last half of the day. If instead of I had 1 bite on it, I didn't even hook him. If I would have threw a wacky rig instead the whole last half of day 2 and never had a bite, there's no way I would have picked it up on day 3. So, that kind of stuff is kind of like the butterfly effect. There's like a chain of events and stuff that happens. And even on day 1, I caught that, like the first 3 3/4 that I lost at the boat. There's a chance that I'm unhooking him, taking pictures with him. My boat drifts over, the 3 1/4. I never catches it. And then I make a different string of decisions after that, and then I never hit that brush pile because I'm running it because I caught a 3 3/4, and I never catch the 4. So it's just a string of events.
It's like when they say, "Oh, if he had caught that pass, they would have won the game for the touchdown." But
right,
if he had caught that pass and there's a kickoff, the whole game changes.
Every single thing changes. Yeah. So I don't look at it like that. I just look at it, and if I didn't make a mistake, the fish, some of the ones that I lost, I didn't think I made a mistake, and I definitely did not come over here to harp about lost fish.
I'm bringing it up because of how it was good. And you seem to have all your stuff super dialed in. You're big on line, equipment, hooks, matching, everything. It's not like you were like, yeah, let's just tie that on. I think those hooks are good. You are meticulous when it comes to it. And I've talked to other anglers. You're probably one of the top 2 or 3 on tour now as far as details.
Yeah, I'm extremely particular. I'm not like Aaron Martins, but I feel like I'm extremely particular, and I film everything on YouTube. So if I have a day where I lose a couple, I'll go back and watch it, and I'll say, did I make a mistake? Did I fight that fish wrong? And sometimes, sometimes you look for reasons that you might get a bad result on something, and sometimes you look for reasons when there really wasn't a reason there, and that can cause you to overcorrect. And, you get to the elites, you qualify for the classic, you get in that position because you're doing some stuff right. So a lot of times if you get a bad result, it could be just bad luck or something just went the wrong way, and it could go either way. And then for you to overcorrect sometimes is a worse thing to do than just keep doing what you're already doing. So yeah, I just kind of, I just want to make the best decisions I can. And when I get those bites, even if I don't land it, it just helps me make more decisions throughout the rest of the tournament.
Dude, I want to go kind of behind the stage here because, I've watched the guys behind the stage. I've watched it from the arena the last couple years. I'll be honest. Here's what I do. The last couple years, because I haven't been riding for Bass Zone, I've just been covering it for BTL. I don't have any stories. I go upstairs, regardless of where it is. I buy a $12 beer. I walk to the very top row of the arena. I sit down by myself, and I don't talk to anybody for 3 hours, and I just watch it. And one of the things that I noticed in this when they brought out the Super 6, you had a bunch of sandbaggers. Stetson's like the only guy who's like really weighing his fish on it. Christie's going to be low because he doesn't want to have, oh my gosh, he's going to win. And you're always low on it. You had a bunch of sandbaggers up there. And so you knew it would be, but as they start bringing you out for the Super 6 behind stage, I'm like, the way these guys are like acting and coming out, like you guys genuinely knew like that it was a three-man race between you three, and like you guys all thought it could maybe even be a three-way tie. Like it behind stage as you're standing back there gathering or bringing you out. What's going on? How did you know who was saying what to what? I mean, it just seemed like, holy cow, these guys are nervous, and all three think they got a shot at this sucker.
So basically, just to give you all the rundown, when we sat in the boatyard for a while, and me and Jason,
like an hour and a half.
Yeah, and me and Jason and Stetson are like standing together talking for a lot of the time. And I mean, it was just pretty much a constant circle of me saying I'm not going to win, one of y'all are. Then Jason will say, well, I don't have enough, one of y'all going to win. And Stetson will say, well, I know exactly what I got, and it ain't enough, so one of y'all are going to win. So that's kind of what it was. It was a circle. But you could, realistically, it was so close. All of us really did have a legit chance. I don't think any of us really knew, really had a better feeling than anybody else. Like, I didn't know what Stetson was actually going to weigh. I knew he had over 20, and then I heard he caught a 4-pounder at the very last that he never even put in Bass Track. So I was thinking he was going to weigh in like 21 or over 21, and then I would have needed to have 17, and then Jason would have to have at least that, to pass him too. So I mean, it was going to be extremely close. Stuff. Whenever it's that type of a tournament and it's that close, it really comes down to, it's almost like flipping a quarter at that point when it's that close. Like,
do you consciously remember that stuff, like how it all went down, or is that just like a blur when you're back there? Like, your guts entangled, or are you enjoying the moment, or?
It's just, I definitely enjoyed it, but I'm so competitive. Like, I want to do good so bad. And then those opportunities don't come around all the time. Like, it's not every year you're competing to win a classic unless you're Hank Cherry, it seems like. So, it's not like you don't get in that position that often, So I want to enjoy the moment, but at the same time, it's like we have to do everything. Because I've been in position to win a couple of elites. Like, I've had a legit chance to win a couple of elites. And I remember thinking back, and I just don't want to ever leave there thinking there's something else I could have done. I could have been a little bit more focused, and that would have given me a little bit better chance. So that's the only thing I don't want to leave there thinking is I wasn't quite focused enough or something like that. So I do want to enjoy it the best I can, but at the same time, it's everything you can do to win. But yeah, whenever you get done and you're at the Super 6, and all that stuff is super fun. I didn't really get nervous. It's like whenever Stetson weighed in 20 pounds, 9 ounces, I knew for sure it was going to be, I didn't think mine was going to weigh 17.4. I thought it was going to weigh somewhere between like 16 3/4 and 17. Just because I had weighed some of them on my scale, and just knowing how my scales usually compares to Bass's, I thought it was going to be like I was going to be 1 ounce behind or like 1 or 2 ounces ahead. But I had a little bit more than I thought, and then obviously Jason had even more than that. But I didn't really get nervous until Stetson weighed in like 20 pounds, 9 ounces, because then I knew like it's about to be legit ounces. If he'd have weighed in 21 and a half, I would have knew he was just going to win, and that's because I knew I wasn't going to have that much. But that's whenever I did get nervous, though, whenever he weighed in.
You think about it. It's the entire bass fishing universe. I don't care what you fish, where you are. Everyone knows it. And there's that moment where you're like, holy cow, there's 25 of us, and one of the 25 is going to win. And then the weigh-in starts, and you're like, holy, it's down to like 6 or 7 guys. And then it gets down to like 2, and you're like, you think of everything you've done, and you're like, one of these two guys is going to be number one. But I was really impressed. I mean, dude, I remember I got beat by the last guy who weighed in a BFL in 2013, and it still chaps me, and I still don't want to talk about that. But like, just the guts that you have to, you walk off stage and literally you hear Mercer and Jason Christie, unfinished business, and that, and you've got to wait, and then you got everybody in the media room eating meatballs and drinking, and they're and they just want to get their stuff and leave. Like, how do you pull yourself I mean, that's like just a pro move, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in there doing that. And you were like, I mean, you kind of like you walked off stage. Like when you walked right off stage like that, like what did you do? They have a decompression room for you? Is there a guy there that's like, hey, come in here, chill out for a while. You get to talk to your wife, your family, kind of internalize what happened and then do it? Or, I mean, did you have a moment?
No, not at all. So I walked off stage. They grabbed me, take me to the media room. I went to the media room once, did a lap around it, and I forgot about the press conference. So I went to the media room, and then the first couple questions I got is it's like a good week, runner up in the classic, and then I think somebody asked me kind of if anything went wrong this week, and I'm like, I lost about 5 ounces, dude. Like not that much went wrong, like it was pretty close. But then you had to, we had to do a bunch of interviews and stuff like that, and then I immediately, like I was in the media room for like 10 minutes, and then like. I think he's probably still on stage. I walk out back. Instantly, there's people want to take pictures with me, so I just lost by 5 ounces. I'm smiling in all these pictures. But it was good, though. Like, that's what comes with the territory. Like, the way I see it is it was a great opportunity. Opportunities are not guaranteed. Like, you just have to do the best you can do. And every once in a while, that opportunity is going to pay off. But, I mean, if it was a guarantee, I would be a lot more – if it was almost guaranteed, I would have felt a lot worse whenever I lost. But, there's – nothing guaranteed about it. It was just nice to be sitting there with literal probably a 50-50 shot that your life was going to change. I'll take that all day long, So it is like it hurts a little bit. You kind of think about what could have been, but, it's just you're a pro angler. You have to just, you're representing your sponsors. You keep your head up. You keep moving, and you just right now we're just thinking about how to catch one at Santee,
The first thing that came to my mind, and obviously it's blown out of the water now, your poker thing, everyone's kind of got a little mystique around you. Oh, this guy lived in Vegas and played poker, and, he's got it. But the thing that I thought of was, man, you flopped the nuts and got beat with runner.
Yeah.
And it's like when whether you're playing 1-2, 2-5 in a tournament or something, there's certain hands where you get all your chips in the middle, you've got the best hand that you can have, and the turn comes and the river comes, and you just push your chair in and shake the guy's hand and say, wasn't my day. But if you get your chips in the middle enough times with the best hands, eventually a blank will fire and you'll get the whole pot.
Yep. It's just like being in a poker tournament. You got ace king, or you got pocket queens and he's got ace king. It's 50-50. Neither one of you made a mistake, but only one person can win the pot, and then everybody else has got to leave there pissed off. That's just how it is, but it is, I think about this is just what comes with the territory. I'm blessed to be able to do this for a living. I have amazing sponsors. The last thing I want to do is, act like a, little pissed off
sore
teenager
loser
or something. Yeah. Well, whenever I'm, representing all of them and I got their hat on, their logos, I'll be the last thing I want to do is, be aggravated, mad, and aggressive to media and stuff like that, because I'm still representing those even after I lost. That's just how it is. So all that type of stuff just comes with the territory, and I was just glad we had an opportunity.
Dude, I greatly appreciate it. 48 hours after you have a little bit of recovery time, then you're turning around, headed to Santee Cooper. That's going to be a slugfest. Hopefully half you guys won't be trying to fish without lower units after midway through the first day on that, but right back at it in the season. And dude, you've got a lot of fans, and I think you're gaining a lot of momentum in your young career with what you're doing on the social media, the YouTube side, how genuine you are and how analytically you approach the game. A lot of fans I know on BTL are saying, dude, we need to get Kyle back on more often. And I'm like, yeah, I hear you, but dude, you're one of those guys. Your schedule's pretty busy now, man. You're doing this thing.
I was wondering about that. I was like, what does it take to get on BTL? I guess you have to catch a 10-pounder in your first ever Elite Series event and then almost win the Classic and get invited back on here. So it's pretty tough to get back on the show.
listen, anytime you have anything that you want to talk about, you got a cool story, you just want to shoot the breeze, whatever, you got my number. Shoot it to me. You are welcome to be on BTL any day. A massive asset to the show and to the sport of professional bass fishing as a whole. Kyle, anything else you want to get in here before you? I know you have some sponsor obligations today. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yep, absolutely. I enjoyed it. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all y'all watching and following me. We'll see y'all at Santee.
All right. That was second place finisher in the 2022 Bassmaster Classic, Kyle Welcher. Yeah, he went 18-13, 17-10, and 17-4 for 53-11, and just really cool to hear all those adjustments. Guys approach the Classic a lot differently. Like I said, Christie said, I had two things that I was going to do, and I grinded. He said, I caught a 6-pounder on a spinnerbait, but I wasn't going to let that happen again. You talk to some guys who say you do the one thing that you have to do to win, and if it works, you win, and if it doesn't, you finish last. Like you hear Skeet Reese talk about that. And Welcher goes in and goes, dude, I was off my game plan, and I was making just decisions off the top of my head an hour into the first morning, and that continued throughout the entire Classic. So big thanks to him for jumping on. We are going to take a few commercial breaks. We actually have we got a bunch of new commercials, new Lowrance commercial, a bunch of good stuff coming out from Lowrance and some opportunities to save on it. If you did listen to the over-under, I believe the over-under on anglers on the final day mentioning that forward-facing sonar played into their game plan was 8. I think that number was like 23. It's here. It's here to stay. It's scary. It's scary the more these guys figure out, like Kyle was like, yeah, there's 4 on that brush pile, and then 3 of them follow, but there were 2, so I picked the shaky head, and I watched him go down. No longer is that like a kind of a savant thing to do. That's just like standard operating procedure in professional bass fishing and bass fishing at all levels now. So we're going to take a couple breaks. We'll be back with Gussie, Jeff Gustafson, who's going to break down. Well, I want to have him on to see how did he miss the Demiki rig bite on Lake Hartwell, and he's nice enough to come on. He'll probably win this next one on Santee, flipping 70, 80-pound braid and be like, see, I can fish shallow stuff too. So we'll be back. It is the post-Classic show, Tuesday, March 8th on Bass Talk Live.
Bigger and better. The Lowrance Ultimate Fishing System upgrade now offers more. A new $200 rebate on Active Target Live Sonar and bigger savings with up to $1,200 cash back. Pick fish finding tools to fit the way you fish. From high-performance sonar and ultra-quiet ghost trolling motor to navigation and networking tools that bring it all together. Find more, see more, catch more.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
I've made my living on the water for over 20 years.
For 14 years.
For over 23 years.
I've worn a bunch of different clothing brands over the years.
Some companies big.
And some companies small.
All of them said they were making clothing for us.
But none of them knew us.
None of them were us.
Except for one.
Except for one.
Except one.
AFCO.
AFCO.
AFCO. AFCO.
Fishing isn't part of us. It is us.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
Are you looking to install your own fishing electronics? Well, the Bass Tank is here to help you. The solution is the Bass Tank Power Harness. It takes the guesswork out of installation. No more voltage issues or interference. Designed by an engineer so that you can get professional results right there in your own garage. Installation done right with the help of the Bass Tank Power Harness. You can feel confident knowing that your installation was done right. The Bass Tank Power Harness. Give us a call or order yours today at thebasstank.com.
The new Android series is the peak of the Denali lineup and offers the ultimate Denali experience. The Android series features 36-ton multi-directional graphite combined with interlock blank technology for added strength. Each rod is outfitted with Royal titanium guides that will not fail. The blank is fitted into an easy-touch, soft-feel EVA foam grip with exposed blank reel seat. This all allows the Android to transmit every movement of your bait and even the most subtle bites. The Android series is the finest rod Denali has ever made and offers an angler the ultimate fishing experience with a limited lifetime warranty. See the full lineup of Android rods at denalirods.com.
Welcome back to BTL on a Tuesday. It is a post-Tuesday. It is the first BTL that Jason Christie can call himself the Bassmaster Classic champion. He will be on the show tomorrow morning, along with fellow Oklahoman Luke Palmer and Justin Hamner. We'll break down their top 10 finishes in the Bassmaster Classic. And dude, every time I interview Kyle Welcher, I'm just more and more impressed with him. Another guy who's been very impressive so far over the course of his career, both at FLW and the Elite Series. He catches them everywhere he goes. He's got a win on his mantle. You would have been the first, you're the second Canadian to get a win. But, dude, you finished up the Classic week here. What, your third Classic, Jeff?
Third one, yeah. It's I'm still tired 2 days later, but yeah, it's the highlight of the year. I mean, that's everybody's goal. That's fishing on the Elite Series. It's a big deal to be part of it, and it was another fun week in Greenville.
We're talking with Jeff Gustafson, Elite Series pro, who finished 41st in the Classic. But, dude, talk a little bit about that Classic week. It's not just 3 days of practice and then you miss the cut, you do the expo, and you're done. It's a mentally taxing week and a half grind from that first day of practice, which was over a week ago. Was that Friday? You probably got there on like a Wednesday. Does it fly by? Does it seem to go slow? Is it a blur? What is the entire experience like now that you've experienced it for a couple times?
Yeah, so it flies by. I mean, it starts out sort of slow, but we're on our own for those first 3 practice days. So my wife Shelby and I stayed at a little house out at the lake, and fish from dark to dark. We watched the new season of Ozark at night, and that was our weekend. And then Monday, all the anglers get to sort of move into Greenville. We're off the water for a couple days, and Bassmaster puts us up for the week, at a hotel. We're all together. And we kind of get the rock star treatment all week. I mean, that's part of the experience. And then, there's some great activities that go on throughout the week, the Champions Dinner, or the Night of Champions. Obviously the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame has a fun little fundraising function every year. I love all those different activities that kind of go on throughout the week, and it's fun to like all the anglers are together. Like we had a couple of late nights during the week, when we're fishing the next day, obviously, but it's fun to just kind of get to hang out with everyone and get to know each other a little bit better. So yeah, it's a tiring week. Like I said, we came over to Charleston yesterday. We found a little place to rent for a few days, and we're just kind of relaxing. And I'm going to go it's kind of a full tackle swap going from Lake Hartwell now to Santee. So I'm going to go spend a couple hours in my boat this afternoon and just switch some gear over, get ready for the next one.
Hey, who takes it the most seriously? Like, are there guys who you're there and they're like, hey, you want a Bud Light? And he's like, no, man, it's Classic week. And then they're like, hey, you want to go get something to eat? And he's like, no, man, it's 8 o'clock. It's Classic week. Really?
David Mullins.
Really?
He's one of my best buddies, but he actually does not even go to the Night of Champions dinner. I mean,
get out of here.
Nah, he doesn't. All 3 years, we've made the Classic together the last 3 years, and you will not see him out out on the town during the week of the Classic.
And then who takes it the extreme, the opposite direction? Who it's like, I can't believe what this guy's doing. It's Classic week, and he's just like, another round of Washington apples.
I mean, I don't think anybody really has a full breach like the night before we got a fish, but probably
What'd you call it? A full breach?
A full breach, yeah. So like Monday night is usually a good time. Like that's when everyone kind of gets to town. Tuesday, we just have like a rules meeting in the afternoon. So like Monday nights was kind of the big night. And then Wednesday night after the Night of Champions, usually there's a little bit of a event after that. And Thursday we had media day. So probably the like Caleb, Lee, Corey Johnson, those guys,
the usual suspects.
Yeah, they're kind of, you can usually find a good time with those guys.
I'm also interested, like I said, you shared, what is the information sharing like during the Classic? Because it's open throughout the entire year. You can share information with each other. A lot of the guys work together. There's little teams, if you're listening and don't realize this, that are like, hey, we're going to work together throughout the year so we all make the Classic. Yeah. Then when you get to the Classics, does everyone have like a pocket knife on them and is like, I know we work together, but get away? Or are you guys bouncing ideas off each other to be like, hey, you're my buddy, let's get to the top 10 and then we'll have a knife fight on the final day?
Yeah, yeah, kind of. But I honestly, so during the regular season events, I'll usually talk to Seth once or twice. Mm-hmm. And we usually stay together, so we compare notes in the evening. And then I talk to Carl, probably every day. Unfortunately, he wasn't in this one, but I think Seth and I talked maybe like after the first day, and then maybe at like noon on day 2, and that was the only other angler that I really like compared any notes with or talked to the whole time. It was for this one. I think we've all kind of fished Hartwell before, so I knew what I was going to do. Nothing that anybody told me was going to really probably change how I was going to fish and approach things. So, and neither Seth nor I really, had the program sort of figured out. So I actually had a pretty good practice. Like I was fairly confident heading into the tournament that I was going to do well, and I didn't think I would really be in jeopardy of like missing the 25 cut, and I really wasn't very close at all. So
yeah, that's what I was looking at. The top end, it was 54 pounds took to win, and it took 53 to get in the top 3. But going in, I think there were a lot of people that thought there maybe be some more heavier 20-pound bags with more of those 4.5 to 5 pound largemouth showing up. But man, you go down to the cut, and Corey was the first man out, and he had 29.6. He dang near averaged 15 pounds a day to make the cut, and it's not like you struggled out there. You had 12, 12, and 13, and when you're dealing with spotted bass, dude, that's over a 2.5 pound average in your bag. It's not like you struggled. Were you surprised at how much weight it took to be in contention?
Yeah, I fished here several times in like 15-pound bags. Like you're usually not going to be the boss, but like
you're in the mix.
You're going to be in the like range of the top 10. Like 15's usually pretty strong out there, and you got to catch a couple of those big largemouths. You don't see a lot of limits of like 3-pounders. There's plenty of big ones. And, I spent most of my time fishing offshore, using my electronics. What I like to do, I did fish a bunch of docks. I kind of tried to do a little bit of everything by lunchtime when I could, it wasn't really working out for me. But I caught lots of fish. It wasn't like I was, I had my limit in the first 30 or 40 minutes each day. And, but I just never got a big bite. And, in the past, usually if you get enough bites, even if you're fishing offshore and fishing deep, you catch some good largemouths just kind of mixed in. I did catch a few in practice, and, just sort of the way it worked out. I had a few times where they came up busting and schooling around me, and like there was big spots just flopping out of the water. Like 3.
Really? On the
pounder.
herring or on shad?
I'm assuming herring. I mean, you wouldn't really see the bait that much, but I mean, they just come up and just be
Yeah, I
everywhere.
forgot. You're
And
probably more like Cisco and burbot.
The one I would hook would be the 1.5 pounder. It was just kind of.
Did you catch any on top water?
No, I never did. You probably could have.
Did you know anybody who did? I had that as an over-under, and then I realized it was like impossible. Did you hear of anybody who was like, "Oh, dude, I cast a silver spook out there"?
Somebody did on Sunday, like Sunday night. It came up. I don't remember who it was, and then I know. I know a few guys caught some fish on buzz baits, but
okay. What was it weird to you? This was weird to me. So like you have the meeting on the top 6 and everyone's like, yeah, I did the same thing. Started out deep in the guts with a Demikier drop shot on the deep spots and then went up shallow and threw a wacky worm and a jig around docks. Like there was not like an outlier up there. Usually there's like, I ran 70 miles up the Seneca or I was glide baiting docks. Like what percentage of the field that you talked to were on the same pattern? It seems like pretty much most of the field knew like what the program was.
Yeah, no secrets. I had a big one that I saw the first day, fishing some docks in the afternoon. It was in a little area where I've done get well in the past. And I'm like 50 yards away from this dock and I can see this thing sitting up under it. It was like 8 feet of water and they'll just sit right under those floats. And if the light hits it right, I mean, you can see them from so far away. And I told my marshal when we were getting close, I'm like, there is a giant sitting under there. So I snuck up to it, put my talons down, and I actually, like, I'm not the best caster. And I got a good cast in on her and she just swam to the next opening in the floats. So I fired another one over there, got another pretty good one in, and she just sort of sunk down. And I've seen that episode there before. Go back the second day, she's sitting in the same spot again, and it's pretty much the same routine. I did get her to kind of look at it, and I could see it on the Mega Live, and she kind of went down but didn't follow my bait all the way to the bottom, and then just swam off. And when they do that, you're probably not catching them.
Yeah, I mentioned I thought this was one of the best, aside from getting into the expo, as far as like the expo. Unfortunately, you got to experience that. I saw you there on day 3 of the expo. You've been to a couple of these, before you even fished the Elite Series, and you've also had the opportunity. Are you on the same pattern that this was like a pretty solid expo for as far as attendance and the way it was laid out and ease of getting around in there? I mean, I know you hate the expo no matter what. Like, you don't have to pretend like, oh, it was fantastic. I wouldn't have read it well. Like, you didn't want to be there, but all things considered, I thought it was a dang good expo.
Yeah, and it's once you're there, it's pretty cool that I had all kinds of people wanting photos and autographs, and it makes you feel good. But yeah, and it's I got to float around a little bit, saw a few new baits that I hadn't seen before, and just got to visit with plenty of people and old friends, and so it's a special week. And if people haven't been to the expo before, I mean, if you like fishing and bass fishing and seeing all the new equipment and finding deals on stuff, I mean, it's as good as it gets for sure.
Is it hard to get back in the tournament mode? You put so much into the classic, and then you have to get right back in the swing of things. Is that kind of what you're doing these next couple of days with the shrubbery and lovely painting behind you in a quaint little Charleston town? Is just kind of decompressing, resetting, and then getting back after it so you can go back to the lake, the fishery that you won on roughly the same time of the year in the 53rd Classic coming up next year?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be in that. Like, I wanted to win this one so that I was guaranteed to be in that one next year. So, but yeah, I want to be in that big time, and I've got to start catching some bigger bass. I've been catching limits. I've caught a limit every day so far this season, but it's been pretty mediocre start. So I've got to start catching some big ones, which we're going to the land of the giants next week. I'm calling it. There will be some big fish caught, no doubt. Like,
is it going to be a slugfest like on the beds deal? It was like a little odd last time you guys were there, but I mean, it was still good weights, but it wasn't like,
it was,
it was pretty difficult to sack them.
like I made the top 10 and I only caught 5 keeper bass one day of the whole week that I fished there. It's not going to be like that this time. I'm not saying it's going to be easy to catch limits, but there's going to be a lot of big fish caught. And I'm definitely not the bed fishing expert. So just talking to some of the guys on the weekend, like in the boatyard and stuff, and they sort of were thinking that it's probably happening right now, like the major run, which kind of is going to be similar to what we saw at the Harris chain. I think when we arrived, there was a lot of fish spawning and up shallow, and then it just kind of like waned off a little bit. That could be the case, but we're getting a cold front this weekend when we start pre-fishing, and then it's going to kind of get hot again. And sometimes those cold fronts, and then when it heats up, that just ignites everything. And we'll see. It'll be exciting for sure. It's going to be a fun one for everyone to follow and watch.
You got more pressure on you this year to get back to the Knoxville Classic next year? Is that in the back of your mind a little bit?
Yeah, probably a little bit, but
yeah. You don't seem to me like a guy who like really stresses out about stuff.
No, it's more just like the field is so good. I mean, there's no weak guys in the field. I mean, it's just the whole field is so good. So like any hour you don't catch them, you're falling behind, and it's just, in the next few years, I mean, it's going to be murderer's row just to kind of stay in it, I think, as far as
it's really hard to get in there too.
And it's very hard to get in there. Like I'm pulling through big time, dude. And I have a lot of friends that are,
and then you look at the opens, and you're like, God, all these guys can catch him. And then you look at the elite series, you're like, all these guys can catch him. Yeah. It's nuts. That's what I said. And then you talk to like a guy like Welcher, like we just had on. Dude was like 5 ounces away.
Yeah.
And you don't ever know. Hard. Like, I mean, you know what it's like to go into that final day of dude, if I just do my job, I get a blue trophy. Or if I just do my job, I win the Bassmaster Classic. There's not many people who know, like, I don't know what that's like. I mean, that's got to be a pretty freaking awesome feeling. Watching it that morning in front of those people going, dude, like 8 hours to do what I was born to do, and I get $100,000 in the trophy. That's probably what keeps guys in it forever.
And it's not like I was really happy to see Jason win. Obviously, been in Kyle's position a couple times where it was just sort of snatched away.
He had to walk off while the guy's lifting the trophy. That can't be a good feeling.
No, but from Kyle's thing, and Stetson too. I mean, those guys had really good final days. I mean, it's hard to catch them, especially at that lake. I mean, it's hard to do 3 days in a row, and it's not like they kind of limped in there on the final day. I mean, they caught them good, and it was any of those guys could have won. It was that close, but that was exciting.
Stetson's been there twice too. He just was short tracking down Hank at Gunnersville. Yeah. I mean, this is 2 now. Now he's kind of in a little bit of that position where he's tasted it.
Yeah. No, it's hard to win. And, so that, but for sure, that was the most exciting finish that I've been to at one of those things. I mean, it was crazy the way it ended.
You're there at Charleston, it's just a thriving bass fishing mecca. You're going to put the boat in and go run 90 miles to catch 11 pounds.
Apparently the Cooper River's been pretty good. I'm actually going to go out on Friday with one of the guys from Z-Man, and that's where he kind of wanted to go. So, I kind of hope we don't ever have to go to Winyah Bay again, but if we do, then it might be good.
You'll have a leg up. Hey, if you want to do any social activities in Charleston, my boy Dave Rush is in the industry. He's like a world-renowned DJ out of Charleston.
Is that what he does?
Yeah, well, that's what he did do.
Okay.
And now he's in the industry full time. But he was DJ. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he was DJ Saturday. That was his name. He still does some weddings and stuff. Occasionally he'll do it, and he was sponsored by Puma. They like you guys get sponsored. He got cash and then a stipend to close. Puma sponsored the best underground DJs around the country. Well, Charleston it's kind of like a party central of South Carolina, and they sponsored him, and that was his jam. He's got the turntables and everything, and so he knows the spots is all I'm saying, Gussie. If you and Shelby want to go to one of the spots, DJ Saturday can probably get you in, especially if it's a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Well, If it's I'm not the best dancer, so Shelbs probably won't let me go into any of those kinds of places, or I'll embarrass her. But that's cool. I did not know that about him.
Yeah, that's it. Anything else burning that you'd like to get off your chest?
We spoke earlier about the Demiki rig stuff and the jerk shad on a jig.
Yeah. We got to get into that because that's your jam. But it sounds like you were on it and you just didn't find a big bite.
Yeah, I mean, I
answered it.
I was throwing it a lot. Maybe one of the mistakes I made, I was throwing a 5-inch Z-Man jerk shad, and when I showed up in practice, I was using a small bait on a spinner jig. And then at one point during the practice, I just tied a 5-inch bait on, 1/4 ounce jig, and just started reeling that around. And I caught some big ones. So that was just kind of what I stuck with. And, I'm lucky I got a win out of that bait last year before, but you're going to see a lot of wins in the next couple of years with that style of bait all over the place, just because it's such a deadly tactic and technique bait for, in conjunction with the forward facing sonar.
Even without it, do you feel like some of those baits, like a Nico rig or Demiki, is there another name, jig and minnow? Is it just the Demiki rig? What do you call it?
My buddies, like at home, we just call it the minnow, and everyone sort of knows
minnow
what I'm talking about.
But my theory on that, Gussie, is it doesn't have a signature. That it's like signature's always a little different. Like that bait's always going to fall a little different because of the head and the plastic on it, just like a Demiki rig is, and it's impossible for them to become conditioned to it. Is that is that a fair assessment? Unlike a jackhammer, it's always going to sound the same. Now you can alter it with the tail or a spinner bait or a crankbait.
Yeah,
it's impossible for them to get conditioned to those natural little baits.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot, like when in Knoxville, obviously I was catching fishing it vertically right under the boat. The largemouths, I've caught them doing that, and I've been plenty of places where they don't love that. Spotted bass, for whatever reason, do not love the bait like hanging under the boat, like vertically. They'll come and check it out, but like they don't like to bite it. They like it better if you just like drop a bait past them and kind of right to the bottom.
They got to go get it.
But there was a lot more casting and reeling them going on, I think, at Hartwell.
Tom wants to know what your exact setup is for that if you're fishing it like day in and day out.
Yeah, so I'm lucky. I'm pretty spoiled with the equipment. I get an 872 NRX Plus, so that's a 7.3 kind of medium action. I like the 3000 size spinning reel, and then 10-pound braid, 10-pound fluoro leader. So I'm using just regular Power Pro. I think that's my favorite. Pretty bulletproof, and then just 10-pound Seagar Abrase X fluoro.
Hey, are we headed towards the age of the spinning rod and reel? I just cracked me up. Christie's like, I never thought I'd win a classic with half my fish on it. And Luke Palmer's like, I didn't even know how to rig one up. And like everybody in the top. And then you look at it, you look like where you guys are going next time. Paul and Nick call like a 10-pounder on it last time they're on a spin.
Oh, yeah. There'll be a lot of spinning rod fishing going on next week. No doubt.
That's always been part of your arsenal.
Yeah, for sure. Like growing up north, any northern anglers, you kind of grow up using spinning equipment, and I'm going to definitely mix it in next week. I always have a bunch of spinning rods in the boat. But yeah, like it was funny like Luke was parked next to me in the boatyard. So we visited a lot. He's a great guy, over the weekend, and watching him rig up his spinning equipment. And
did it just make you want to die? What was he doing?
Well,
we'll have him on. Listen, he's on tomorrow, so he'll be able to rebut this. But from the great white Canadian snow leopard, the spinning rod master.
So I can't really chirp him because he made the top 10. He was fishing on Sunday, and I wasn't.
He did
with his 3 spinning rods that he owns.
He also said that if he do. I think his quote was, "If I do what the hell I was doing, I'd have had like 8 more pounds."
Yeah. No, he had the ugliest jig head on a little swim bait that I've ever seen. It was like shiny lead, and he just took a Sharpie to it, and like there was just black streaks on it. That was kind of funny, and it was heavy. It was like it might have been like a 1/2 ounce lead head. I don't know. But yeah, just watching him tie his leaders on, it was good. But no,
Are you an FG snob?
A little bit, yeah. But any of these guys that fish the Elite Series, they might pretend like they don't like or know how to use spinning equipment, but they all do.
Dude, no, I've been in the boat with a lot of them. There's a bunch that don't.
Yeah.
I've seen, yeah. I mean, like, the guys with like this Spin Rex reels that have the double handle and then the fast fire bail on it that only opens half of the time.
I think a lot of those guys are around anymore.
You would be surprised, Gussie. Yeah, like I said, yeah, there's some guys that have turned themselves into spinning rod aficionados out of necessity, but I mean, there's still that handful of guys that are like proud that they do not know how to throw a spinning rod.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, for sure. Hey,
it's like a thing.
When I fished the FLW tour, I used to travel with Brandon McMillan. So this is going back around 2016. And I actually, for a few tournaments, he can do it an FG knot. And like, he's a very good fisherman. He can do everything now. So, but for a couple tournaments, we were staying together and I used to have to tie his leader knots on for him. And then at Kentucky Lake one time, he was in the top 10 and I actually had to tie his drop shot up for him. And he was catching fish with it. And it was kind of funny at the time, but yeah, he can do all that stuff now, but yeah.
They have the exact same conversations when you're like punching hydrilla down south of that. You should have seen the Gussie setup when he went to go punch.
Well, I think I just discussed him when we're in the boat because, like, if we're flipping or something, like that guy'll never have a single splash when his bait hits the water, and every one of mine
cannons.
He's like, dude, you're never gonna catch one.
Dude, I did the same thing in Florida. We did like a little deal with Hallman, and we were like showing our footage of it, right? And I'm like, I boat flip a 7 in the open, and Hallman's like, yeah, good job. And I said something about the hook set. And he's like, I didn't want to like embarrass you. He's like, that was like really bad hook set, man. He's like, you're like slack lining it. You felt him. Look, he's on it already there. I'm like, dude, like that's not my thing.
I think that's why I like fishing mats. Like when I'm flipping, I love fishing mats because you can just like, just get it in the area over there, plop it through and hopefully you land.
I like the best where you go, just toss it all the way up and then free line and go all the way through, and you're like, that's the only way to get it through there. So I know I'm doing it right. I struggle a lot more like when you got to fish like the isolated reed heads and pads, and you got to like sneak it in there really in the perfect spot if you want to catch one. But mats are the best because you can make as much noise as you want, pretty much. Good stuff, Gussie. I appreciate it. Like I said, the Classic hangover is real. The last thing you want to do 2 days after the Classic that you spend 8 months preparing for is talk about how it didn't go the way you thought it would go. But dude, there's a lot of learning to it. And like Welcher said, you guys are professionals and it comes with the territory. So I greatly appreciate it. And like Kyle, you have an open invitation to be on BTL at any time that you want.
Yeah. We all want to be on your show all the time. So yeah, I'm happy to get the opportunity. And the only other time I got to be on was after I won a blue trophy. So this is a big deal for me.
Well, I'm doing. Listen, I'm doing this new show with Dave Mercer. It's called The Cull. It's just we're not doing anything out of it. We just were like, we were arguing. We always are on the phone. And he's like, we should put this into a show form. So the latest episode of The Cull is kids on stage. Keep them or cull them. Well, I don't have any kids, so I culled it, and I said, bring up 50 kids on stage after you win. You can have all the kids on stage if you want. That's like it. You get the dub, you do something special. Come on, BTL.
Yeah. No, for sure. But yeah, no, I'm anytime, man. Keep doing a good job. I listen to all the episodes when I'm pre-fishing. I think I've told you this before, but when I'm in the boat by myself, that's usually when I listen to all the shows. So you keep me entertained out on the water.
Awesome. Big news for Mark Jeffries. You'll appreciate this. We do a lot less basketball talk now. I believe I actually opened up the show saying we are going to talk about bass fishing and just bass fishing. But Mark, so like last year, they made state, and then literally 30 seconds after they made state, he slipped in the locker room and was out cold and was in a coma. I'm not like laughing at it. It was just disastrous, but he doesn't like remember making state. And he's like, it's a once in a lifetime deal with these kids in the 4A school that they're at. And they had a good team. Well, they lost the game to get back to state, but then the last 3 nights they've won back to back to back, and last night or 2 nights ago against their arch rivals to get back to state, which is like unheard of. They beat their arch rivals, so they play at the state fairgrounds, one of the top 8 teams in 4A, and they play the number 1 team tonight to get to the state semifinals. And Mark is beyond jacked. He had his hair done. He had his shoes color coordinated with his khakis and his jacket today, and he's pumped because he gets to experience it. Something he thought was a once in a lifetime. They're headed back to state tonight. So he sent me the pictures, and he sent it in a weird format. I would have thrown the picture up, but big game for MJ tonight with the 4A boys there.
Wish him all the best. Yeah, no, he that's cool. Wish him all the best, and hopefully he'll get to do some winning and remember it all this time.
Awesome. Gussie, thank you for joining me on BTL on a Tuesday.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
See ya. Have fun in Charleston. I'm serious about Dave. Call me. I'll give you his number if you want. If you guys want to get some sneaky stuff.
Okay.
All right. See ya. All right. That was Jeff Gustafson. Good dude. We're going to take a final break, and when we come back, I have some final thoughts. Well, not final, but final for today on the Bassmaster Classic, kind of where it stands and where I think it goes from here. And we'll run those commercials and be back. It's BTL on a Tuesday.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-Bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
Vibrating jigs are a great choice for any time of year, and the Kamikaze Swim-On is a perfect match for any vibrating jig. 2 sizes and the unique tail design gives it a bait fish profile and a great swimming action for realism. There are 17 colors. See them all at bigbitebaits.com. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Welcome back to BTL. I have breaking news. Mark Jeffries just texted me. I think this is coincidence because he's at school. I don't think he's lurking around listening to the show, although maybe he was. I don't know. But he sent me the link. Now you have to pay for this. If you guys have a burning desire to watch Kingfisher versus Blanchard in the Class 4A boys quarterfinal number 3 that takes place tonight, you can go to nfhsnetwork.com/events. I thought this was like a short one. But if you go to nfhsnetwork.com, now you have to pay for it. I don't know what's going on in your neck of the woods. Maybe it's a slow Tuesday. Maybe you want to log on and watch Mark Jeffries. But it is. I'm sure you can find another way. Kingfisher versus Blanchard in the state quarterfinals there. So for all you that wanted to cheer on Mark Jeffries, that's how you can do that tonight. It starts at 6:30 p.m. MST. Is that Mountain Standard Time? What did he say there? Yeah. Anyway, check it out. That's Mark Jeffries for that. I do got to mention, there was some stuff that went on outside the Classic, and I was wondering how this was going to go down months ago. This has all been the talk about it, was the BPT event that was taking place on Smith Lake at the exact same time as the Bassmaster Classic. What we have here, in my opinion, is the Classic, which came first, the chicken or the egg. Because you could say, which schedule came out first? Was it the MLF that's scheduled on top of the Classic? Was it the Classic that's scheduled on top of MLF? If the BPT schedule came out first, I mean, when the Classic is going to be scheduled, even the inside circles, way before it was announced. So intentional, unintentional, regardless of how it went down, it sucked. I wanted to watch Smith. I fished the Open on Smith. I wanted to see how Jacob Wheeler attacked it. I wanted to see how Jesse Wiggins, how Dustin Connell, how all those guys, a lot of Alabama anglers on a spotted bass fishery that I really like. I wanted to watch that a lot. Guess what? I didn't watch it at all until the last day when I was in the airport. Got to see Connell catch some of his fish, but I had no reference as to what was going on. Now, I was in the Bassmaster Classic bubble, and I would like to hear from the listeners, the viewers. Was there a must watch? Was the focus on the Bassmaster Classic? Was it on what was going on Smith Lake? Did you watch both equally? Did you forget that one was going on over the other? I definitely think, just like the shows like BTL here, I mean, if it wasn't on top of the Classic, the talk would have been about the crazy top 10 that there was on the BPT, with past champions and Anglers of the Year and Red Crest champions and Classic champions and local favorites, and Michael Neal continuing his run of absolutely incredible finishes. And here I am, I'm an hour and a half into the show on day one, and this is the first time that I've mentioned it, and I really can't speak educated about it because I've been focused on everything that was going on with the Classic. Like I said, is that just me? Do you guys feel the same way on that? I really don't know how to approach it because, like I said, I like to have them on. But, dude, with what Hamner did, we got the Classic champion on tomorrow morning. It's just a weird deal. Bass put out a really good product this week. I was really impressed with what it was, having been to a lot of these. And I got to kind of witness it a little bit different this year. I was actually in a lot of the booths for the different companies for the Bass Tank, AFCO, Big Bite, Denali, Gamakatsu, Spro, a lot of just the companies that support me in the Opens and Bass Talk Live, and then also was in the media room some, got to talk to some of the anglers after, was at the post-game press conference, was in the stands like I talked about during the weigh-in, so really just got to take it in as a whole. And outside of some parking issues, I give it like a 9 out of 10. Not a lot of it was weird. There's not a lot of, in the kind of hype up, a lot of older stuff, a lot of the the Bass kind of blue bloods before. There wasn't the, this is the fourth time they've been here. There wasn't video of Alton lifting the trophy and Casey and Jordan Lee. There wasn't the KVD slams the door or no, like all that kind of hype that you usually have that are built up. Man, they built it with the old school guys and kind of the history of the Classic and what the Classic wins, and I think it worked. I really think it worked. That being said, I'm also going to be at Redcrest here coming up on the end of the month on Grand Lake, a fishery that is very near and dear to my heart. So really excited to see how that goes down and give that a fair shake too, as far as, without the actual like weigh in there and the anglers that are going to be at that expo. They put a lot of work into over the past couple years with having canceled the Redcrest expos before. I think this will be the first like Redcrest that they're saying, hey, come out and check it out. Be interested to see vendor-wise, floor space, fan-wise, and interaction, what it's going to be like in Tulsa and on Grand Lake at the end of the month. And here's I'm going to I didn't even know what to say. I'm going to circle this number. So 154,932. That's what I put down in my phone. I think that's what Mercer said on stage. If I'm off, I might be off. But that is the number that Bass said was attended this Classic over the entire week. And that might be how many went in all the doors and stuff. But like, if I go out and make a phone call and come back in and the guy clicks it, like, does that count me as 2? And then if you got people coming back in, back forth. Anyway, they're saying that's the most attended Classic. It was crowded. It was packed. It was there. Dude, it's going to be hard for them to come up with a number less than that at Redcrest. I'd be interested if they had like maybe 155 is what it'll be interesting to see if there's a correlation higher than that 154,932 that Bass. If they really wanted to do it 154,933, I think one of the I believe was it Texas and Texas A&M where A&M made sure their stadium had one more seat in it than Texas. The Texas guys might be able to help me out with that, but like I said, I would like to circle back and get DC on because Connell is a Redcrest champion. He did go through a really bad bout with COVID last year. He came back. The guys won Opens. The guys won Elite Series events. Incredible young angler who got the job done and really on his home lake, kind of one of the guys that you'd expect to win. So other than that, like I said, give me some feedback on the Classic on what you think. That's about all I got for a Tuesday. Jam-packed show tomorrow. Jam-packed show. Jason Christie, for the first segment of the show, is going to be on to talk about his win on Lake Hartwell, as well as fellow Oklahoma top 10 finisher Luke Palmer and Justin Hamner. Justin Hamner, I think, is also one of the most underrated guys out there on tour. I think we're going to see him do a lot of winning. So that's all I got for BTL on a Tuesday. Thank you for the support. If you're at the Classic and came up, said hi, much appreciated. We'll be back tomorrow with the Bassmaster Classic champion, Jason Christie.